Today we're here with Cami Kwan. Am I saying your name right?
Yep, Cami Kwan.
Okay. First of all, can you please introduce yourself?
Sometimes it seems like the whole world hates me. It's like a circus when all the lines break free. Chaos and madness, flames everywhere I turn. Do I attract it? It's like I love to burn. Whoa. Living on the edge, no rules for me. If I never try and climb, am I really free? Whoa. I'm so high, I should be afraid. Think I'm out of my mind, and I'll never change. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Makes you stronger.
Hi, my name is Cami Kwan. I'm a stop-motion animator and a director. I have a studio called Apartment D Films here in Burbank, California, where we specialize in stop-motion animation, as well as a little bit of 2D and CG. But primarily my focus is on stop-motion animation aimed at younger audiences. So I do a lot of animated series, a lot of music videos. If you're familiar with Monster High's stop-motion music videos, most of those are done by me and the team at Apartment D. And most recently, I was part of the Coalition for Asian Pacifics in Entertainment, CAPES, Julia Escow Short Film Challenge, where I created a stop-motion short film called Paper Daughter.
Why do you want to come to America?
Our home is gone. Our future is gone. Our hope is gone. Crossing the sea, passing the test, starting a new life. I must attain our new future.
Name and age.
Lau Mei, birthday, November 18th, 1908.
Favorite food.
Persimmons. The round ones, not the pointy ones. Not like this.
How many steps to the basement?
No basement. We have an attic.
Which step creaks?
It was the
Which step creaks?
second? No, please, I didn't mean to. I didn't want...
Answer! Which step?
I don't... I'm sorry, May! I'm sorry, May! I'm sorry!
Don't be sorry. Live.
What inspired Paper Daughter?
So Paper Daughter is about a young woman who immigrates to the United States from China in 1926 under the identity of a deceased girl. And that's inspired by actual historic events that happened. People who immigrated from China to the U.S. under false identities were known as paper sons or paper daughters. And it happened quite frequently because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. So in 2023, I was doing a lot of research into Chinese American history, specifically the history of my family who immigrated to the US from China in the early 1920s. And I started learning about paper sons and paper daughters, and it really got me thinking about the nature of sacrifice and how all immigrant descendants are recipients of sacrifice. Our families sacrificed a lot for us to be here and have the futures and the lives that we have. And I started seeing a lot of parallels between how I felt grappling with the sacrifices of my family and what the paper sons and paper daughters might have felt grappling with the sacrifices of the people whose identities they were able to start new lives under. And it's a sacrifice that you can never really pay back because in paper sons and paper daughters cases, those people were deceased. In my case, my great-grandparents are also deceased. And so how do you move forward receiving that sacrifice? How do you go past the guilt and make something more of it and learn to live your life for yourself and for other people and honor both of those? So that's kind of what inspired Paper Daughter.
Very original.
Yes.
Very original idea. It's first I heard about this.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice. What does goodness mean in your story?
Oh, I think in the story, goodness kind of takes the form of a selfless sacrifice. So giving up your own future for somebody else to live it, or at least not holding it against them that they get to live the future that you don't get to live. And immigrating for your descendants to give them a life that you might never really get to see and to like do things to create a future that you'll never really get to live out. I think there's such an inherent love in those actions, and that's what I want more people to think about and like understand when I think of immigration. You know, the desperation and the sacrifice and all of that is of course a part of it, but like for me, more than anything else, it's the love behind it that is the most powerful story there. And I think if we held that reality a little bit more to the forefront, we would see the history of our country as like being built on this selfless love for people and a future that you don't get to participate in, but it's, yeah, the love of others supersedes like the individual gain. And I think as a society, we would benefit from like going by those principles a little bit more. And so that's the goodness I think that I want to communicate in this film.
How did animation help you tell the story?
Animation helped tell this story because something like this is so huge, it's so emotional, it's so potentially triggering for people, that animation helps add a layer between you and that actual history that makes it more approachable, I think, and helps people be able to engage with the story without having the full brunt of like really facing the more difficult history that it's depicting. So I think animation helps in that way. It also really helps because we're able to add an element of magical realism to it that can make some of those more abstract or complicated concepts, like being a paper son or a paper daughter and trying to live out someone else's identity. It helps make them a little more visual, a little more tangible than just a bunch of word salad, which it might be otherwise without like the visual aid of animation. So yeah, in that way I think animation's such a powerful tool for telling these more like really heavy and challenging stories and making them more accessible for everyone.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it's much more doable than trying to make a period film, of course.
Yes,
if you
yeah,
try
no.
to.
That's why I started doing stop motion in the first place, really, is, to me, it's the fastest way to get it out of my brain and onto the screen. It's faster than live action, faster than 2D, faster than CG. So, to me, stop motion is, like, so powerful on a personal level for that reason.
Right. And you are in the hometown of Tim Burton, who also did a lot of stop motion.
Yes.
Have you ever had a chance to meet with him?
No, but Tim Burton is one of my, like, very, very early inspirations for, like, why I even ever wanted to be an animator or a director in the first place. Like, his films are certainly changed the course of my future, so I would love to meet him someday. But we'll see.
Likewise. So he was the reason I chose CalArts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, amazing.
What do you hope people feel after watching?
After people watch the film, I hope they feel loved. I hope they feel loved, and I hope they feel inspired to pass that love on to other people, strangers that they might never meet, in service of a future they might never get to have. I hope they feel that we are a part of something built on just subsequent and consecutive acts of love, and yeah, I think that is the best case scenario for people to come away feeling that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I gotta touch upon searching for goodness. We also talk a lot about environmental issues, environmentalism.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that? How do we protect our environment? Any thoughts? Astronauts currently went to space. They took pictures of our planet Earth.
I have a lot of environmental thoughts about me, myself, personally. Okay, this is a little bit of a roundabout way to get to it, but I think something that's really special about stop motion is how human-made it is and how kind of scrappy it can be, especially the style that we did in Paper Daughter. It's very obvious that it's stop motion. We're very material forward. You can tell everything's made of paper. You can tell that it's made of embroidery thread. And I think part of the charm of that people like is how imperfect and material it is. And the way that I see that connecting to a broader environmental message is, one thing I'm really passionate about is like like patching and mending and fixing things and reusing things, especially textiles. So stop motion to me is just like an iteration of that love of like visible mending and like being proud that something has been fixed and patched and reworked. I think that is very human and unique and cool and imperfect. And I would love to see more people embrace that imperfection and celebrate that imperfection. And it'll help us towards consuming less, reusing more, giving things second life and celebrating that second life.
I agree. I agree. I even in clothing. I remember talking one time to a vintage shop, and she's a beekeeper too. One of her episodes.
Yeah.
Even that, like so much clothes go to waste, so much food goes to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and recycling, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Recycling everything. Great, great. That's a good answer. How did your family's journey shape this film?
My family immigrated to the U.S. in 1926, and so pretty directly this story is based off of their experience. They came through an immigration station called Angel Island, which is basically like Ellis Island in New York, but in the San Francisco Bay. So the setting of this story is fully based on where they were held when they were immigrating as well. A lot of my family still lives in the Bay Area, which is where we landed after exiting Angel Island and entering San Francisco. So I was able to go down and talk to some family members and look at some old family papers and immigration papers and visit Angel Island itself and take a lot of like direct inspiration from the buildings that are still up there. So yeah, I think just all of those material experiences of them really colored like the world that we created for Paper Daughter and like the visuals that we created for the film.
Did you struggle with guilt while making it?
Oh, I think I struggled with guilt initially a lot when making this film, partially because this isn't just my story to tell. I mean, it's about my great-grandmother, and I am just one part of our family. She is the matriarch of like multiple generations of our family, and so I felt a little guilty that I was the one like taking over this story and like choosing how to tell it and how to represent our collective like ancestor to the world and represent her story. And I felt kind of guilty that here I was making a personal short film, just a passion project, when the world was so crazy, and couldn't I be using my skills to do something more helpful? But I realized that humanizing and normalizing an immigration story and adding historical context and all of that, and sharing this perspective of immigration as an act of love and our country then being built on just acts of love stacking up, was important, and how I could use the skills that I have to help in a way that not many other people could specifically. So it kind of went away after a while.
How did 2020 change your perspective on race?
2020 really pretty drastically changed my perspective on race because it made me a lot more aware of how I was perceived in the United States as an Asian American person. I think before 2020, I had never given a lot of thought really to what my experience as an Asian American person was. I started learning more about like the model minority myth and what racism looks like when applied towards Asian people, because it looks different than the way that it's applied towards like African American people or Mexican American people or any other minority. It's a little more subtle and a little more subtle, a little more insidious, and then it stopped being so subtle, which forced me to really like learn about it and reckon with it. And so it was kind of like I was reinterpreting a lifetime's worth of microaggressions in the space of like 6 months. So it was kind of like a really challenging time for me, actually, on top of like feeling unsafe in the general environment of the US. And that's what really brought me around to starting to research the history of Chinese Americans and my family's history, which, yeah, again, all led to Paper Daughter. So it really forced a reckoning and like a reevaluation of my own like racial identity and how I live that and embrace that. And I'm grateful for it ultimately, but it was tough.
It was a pleasure to have you in our podcast, Searching for Goodness. And I would like to let our audience know if they would like to reach you, how can they follow you, how can they watch your films or directly contact you?
Yeah, so I'm super present on my Instagram. It's just at Cami Kwan. And then our short film Paper Daughter is currently in festivals. Depending on when this comes out, we're going to be in the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival the first weekend of May, and Cam Fest in San Francisco the second weekend of May. And if anybody is going to Annecy, France for the Annecy Film Festival, we will be screening there as well. You can follow Paper Daughter the film specifically on Instagram, Paper Daughter Film. And if you're interested in my more professional client-based work at Apartment D Films, just the word apartment, D, films, that's where you'll see a lot of my other work that I do with my studio, like our original series, Rough Danger Dogs, which is basically Power Rangers, but dogs, and it's awesome. So if you're interested in learning more about any of the work I do, or learning more just about me and my work in general, any of those would be a great place to start.
Sounds great. Very lovely to meet you. And to wrap it up, we always end our show saying goodness will win.
Goodness will win. Please watch and subscribe to Searching for Goodness, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, makes you strong.